one winner. Only a single person can win the rarest badge in all of Roblox doors. An achievement so prestigious and desired that hundreds upon hundreds of players are racing to the top trying to obtain it. Yet only a singular person can come out on top of them all and actually get it. Dear viewers, this coveted badge is what is known as Bloxer number 1, the rarest achievement in the entire game. One that started out as being incredibly easy to get, but as more and more people attempt to get it, the task of doing so becomes exponentially harder and harder. I have decided to document the crazy story behind this one-of-a-kind achievement, as well as the journey of one of its most notorious competitors. And in this video, I'll be explaining everything you need to know about Doors' rarest badge of all time. So, with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so I'm pretty sure all of you know how this works, but in case you're new around here, let me break it down for you. On April 1st this year, Doors released its Ranked Mode game mode. In this game mode, players must compete against each other to amass points by performing all sorts of actions, such as surviving monsters or just opening doors. By gathering points in Ranked Mode, players can progress through the various ranks the game has to offer. Every player starts out as a noob rank. Then, by continuously playing the game mode and gaining points, they can level up to a starter, then combatant, then soldier, then warrior, and then finally Bloxer. These ranks are displayed on your player character through a special achievement called the Hardstuck badge, and that changes its appearance based on whatever rank you are currently at. So if I'm a soldier, it will say I have the soldier achievement, and if I have a Bloxer, then I'll have the Bloxer achievement. Now, typically, most players get the Bloxer rank, and that is the end of their journey in Ranked Mode. However, for the most dedicated and hardcore players, there's a much more challenging and competitive obstacle which can be overcome with enough time and effort. The top 1,000 players to have the most points out of all the Bloxer ranks are put on the global leaderboard, and alongside that, they get a special variation of their Bloxer achievement, which showcases their leaderboard position alongside the normal Bloxer title. I think you can see where I'm going with this, but the most difficult and desired version of these Bloxer achievements is Bloxer number 1, a badge only given to the person who is first on the leaderboard, meaning they have amassed the most points in Ranked Mode out of everyone in the entire world who plays the game. Naturally, with such a prestigious and legendary title up for grabs, players wouldn't hesitate to push and shove their ways to the top in an attempt to have the rare badge for themselves. And given how the true winner of the achievement will be decided at the end of this month, with each passing day it becomes harder and harder to obtain, as more and more people try to get to first place and maintain that rank. Now, despite me making a video about Doors often, I'm a pretty casual player of the game itself. So, it only took me a few days just to obtain the Bloxer rank in Ranked Mode, which requires a total of 85,000 points. However, the point requirement for getting at the top of the leaderboard has become so inflated that it's essentially impossible to just start going for Bloxer number 1 right now. The time it takes me to get 85,000 points is the same amount of time it takes the top competitors to get nearly 1 million points, which is such a crazy difference, and what's even crazier is that they consistently have to grind that many points non-stop. The current top players have nearly 3 million points, and that is only going to continue to grow until the final winner is chosen at the end of the month. The dedication of these players is insane. So, in order to better understand that, I actually came into contact with one of them to learn the inner workings of how they managed to get to the top. Dear viewers, meet Watermelony, the person who, as of recording this video, holds the infamous Bloxer number 1 rank. I've asked Melanie a couple questions regarding how they managed to complete such a monumental task, so let's see how they responded. To start off, as one of the fiercest competitors for Bloxer number 1, Watermelony spends at least 3 hours and at most 12 hours each day grinding out Ranked Mode for points to maintain their first place ranking. This insane time requirement makes a lot of sense, as first place is frequently overtaken by other competitors. One day Watermelony could be the first, but next it could be someone else. They're doing this not only because owning Bloxer number 1 is the rarest and most coveted badge in the entire game, but also because it could help their YouTube channel grow, which is something I can respect. Now, something I find very interesting is that they actually started attempting to get Bloxer number 1 a week after the ranked game mode came out, which is astonishing as in terms of the points required, they were several leagues behind the other top competitors, but they managed to catch up. If you wanted to get Bloxer number 1 and you were just starting now, it would essentially be impossible to catch up to the top players. What's also crazy is that Watermelony hasn't been using alt accounts and AFK farming methods to grind as well. They've just been playing the game normally, which is a trait a lot of other competitors, sorry about that, I am not redoing this take. It is a trait that a lot of competitors do not have. And that just goes to show how fun ranked mode is to be, and it's still enjoyable even after playing it for such a long time. Lastly though, in terms of what Watermelony had to say, despite them and the other top players on the leaderboards being intense competitors, they're actually friends. The race to the top hasn't made them sworn enemies or anything like that, which I definitely think is something wholesome, as it's a sign of good sportsmanship. So, now that you all know what it's like to legitimately compete for the Bloxer number 1 rank, and achievement by extension, let's talk about what you could do to get on the leaderboard. As I have said multiple times, attempting to get Bloxer number 1 right now is a lost cause, as it's impossible to gain enough points to compete with the finalists. However, the top 1,000 players actually do get a unique variation of the Bloxer achievement that displays their rank on the leaderboard. So how could we go about getting at least to up there? Well, currently, in order to get to the top 100, you need around 700,000 points, which although is possible, it would require a lot of grinding. As for the top 1,000, although it's not clear what the minimum requirement of points is, based on what I've seen, you'd need 50,000 points or at least a little higher, which is definitely doable if you give it enough playtime. Now, if you do in fact want to be one of the top 1,000 Bloxer ranks, you need a strategy to maximize the points you get in ranked mode. Fortunately, Watermelony gave us quite a handful of tips which may help any of those going for a leaderboard position. Apparently, the hitbox of the hiding box item is so big you can just hold it out in front of entities like Rush, and they won't damage you. And using this technique, you don't have to waste time on hiding, and you don't have to waste the item actually protecting yourself from the entities, like how it was intended to be used. Additionally, Watermelony states that in the actual round, they like traveling far ahead of other players to gain access to a bunch of untouched items. And in addition to that, they also attempt to throw props and ranged weapons at other players any chance they get, as that not only slows down the other players, but it also gives a handful of points, which is beneficial. Now, although I'm not a top player myself, I'd say in addition to those, I'd recommend stocking up on offensive and healing items, as if you are racing other players to be the first to open doors in ranked mode, they could come in handy for any unexpected entity encounters and things like that. So, to summarize, the rarest and most desired badge in all of Doors is the Bloxer number 1 achievement, which is only given to the first player on the ranked mode leaderboard. In order to get it, the most dedicated players not only need to have the default Bloxer rank, which requires 85,000 points in ranked mode normally, but on top of that, they need to grind 3 million more, with that number increasing by the day. Now, although it's impossible for all of us to get the badge, we can still try to get to the top 1,000 on the leaderboard for a special achievement. Anyways, before I end off this video, I want to give a big thanks to Watermelony for helping me create it, as it wouldn't be possible without them. So, with all of that being said, let me know if you're going for a leaderboard position, and thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoy!